sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
I just choked down chocolate chip cookies and Grandpa's femur. Femur.
We make money now?
No, we had to pay
So
them.
this episode, it's just too slippery. I'm slicing everything.
Every time I swing my 5-iron, it goes up that guy's ass.
Welcome to the Sad Dads Club podcast. Here's your host, Jim and Foo.
Episode 87. It's a one of a kind.
I was waiting for something monumental.
Super meaty.
Yeah. Like, oh man, boy, he's got something. He's seen something in the stats. He's read the tea leaves. There's something is important about this episode to you. And you're like,
It's our first ever episode 87.
no fucking shit.
Yeah. We've never done this before. This is unprecedented in the history of Sad Dads Club podcast.
Jesus.
Yeah, think about it. We are breaking new ground here.
Every show is
well,
the bleeding edge of technology.
This show in particular, the one we're doing right now,
Right.
we are on the edge.
Yeah. Right on the fucking fringe.
Yeah. So welcome to the show.
Sad Dads Club podcast. I'm the Foo.
I'm Jim.
Today,
For the moment, in
Stunt Jim.
in a few minutes, I might be somebody else.
He could be gone. Fuck, I don't know.
And this is the first time we've done this show.
You know, I think back to multiple shows ago when
Uh-huh.
we were making jokes about, hey man, they're gonna name the virus after us.
We were?
Yeah. And I went, fuck, boy, in hindsight, damn.
The Sad Dads Club virus?
Yeah.
What?
I went, man, we probably shouldn't have done that because that, in hindsight, that looks pretty. That
Well,
looks douchey.
I don't even honestly remember that conversation.
Yeah, we're like, hey, we're not dead. 90,000 people later.
Oh, it's
we're
awful.
Like, oh, damn,
Yeah.
probably could have been a little bit
More
sensitive
sensitive.
at this point.
Hey, we have to go down with chuckles because otherwise we'll go down with like
with a
an
virus.
aneurysm
Yeah.
or virus.
See,
Yeah. I mean, it all depends on how you approach it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry that a lot of people have lost their loved ones. It's really sad.
Yes.
I'm not trying to take that
No,
in
no,
light
no.
at all.
No.
Yeah, no, I mean,
But it went sideways really fast.
yeah.
Like,
Well, it's good.
Magnitudes.
It's good to know that it's all over. I mean, it's just open everything up.
right.
I mean, it's all. Right?
Yeah.
Just open everything up, man. It's good. We're good to go.
Yeah.
Go to
just
the restaurants, eat all the places.
open the stuffs and the things.
That's where we're at.
I just saw the thing, and we were talking about this earlier,
Yeah.
as far as schools and the kids go. We got
Oh, yeah.
a survey for Xander's middle school,
Yeah.
and it was if schools opened following all of the health guidelines to mitigate, whatever the new guidelines were set down by probably the Secretary of Education or whatever for the state.
Mm-hmm.
If the schools opened following all of those things, would you send your kid to school? Like, yeah. Like, why wouldn't I?
I mean, assuming they're doing all the things
Right.
they're saying they're
if
gonna
the
do.
schools are being told to adhere to the X guidelines, would you send your kid to school? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, no. I think it was just yes or no. I'm like, yeah, I would. Absolutely. Like, why wouldn't I? And then there was a follow-up question, which was, are you interested essentially in like permanent homeschooling? I'm like, fuck no. Are you like kidding me?
I work all day.
I have to work full time. Fuck off. If I can send my kid to school and they're following all the all the jumping through all the hoops,
Yeah.
go to school. Absolutely. Like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And then the secondary article that I saw was talking with the education secretary for the state, and they were talking about how they don't see how they could open schools back up without teachers and students being provided with PPE, essentially. Probably, at least at the bottom line, masks.
Yeah.
And then I think
So I mean,
on an outlier, being able to test all of the students at least once a week.
yeah.
Like,
So I mean, is that the assumption that they're gonna make all the kids wear masks? I mean, is that,
I would think so.
Yeah.
I think things are in very tight constraints until there's a vaccine.
Yeah. Well, because you're just mitigating it right now,
Right.
And if you just say go back to kind of being a little bit normal, I mean, that's where we're stepping into that, right?
Right. We're getting close as far as
Yeah.
the state of California.
You're gonna see stuff creep back up again as far as
Sure.
numbers of people.
Sure.
Who
And
are
if it's
getting it.
like the flu, where it is seasonal, so you're certainly going to be fighting its contagiousness.
yeah,
Is high, seems higher than normal. So we're going to be fighting that probably to a limited capacity throughout the year. But if it's seasonal, like the flu is, then obviously we're going to fight that harder come late fall and early winter, as far as we know, because we haven't had this a full 365 yet, right? So we're just all speculating at this point. But if it gets deep again coming across the
That's
winter,
what she said.
right, hard and deep coming across the winter, you know,
Did I sidetrack?
yeah, it's gonna get right. You know, what do you do for the kids that you put into school, but you know that there's a seasonality? Well,
Well-
the least you could do is put the kids in masks.
Well,
Why wouldn't you?
Thing of it is I mean, what are the things you always think of as incubators for germs? Airplanes, schools.
Right,
There's like
right,
certain,
and you see
certain things
a
that
number
are like,
of. So here, I have the thing.
yeah.
I have the thing, and we talked about this. This was awesome. I thought this was a great conversation.
Well, I don't see how any of those things that you would consider to be an incubator of, like, oh, I was on a plane and I got sick. Like, who hasn't said that, right?
Right.
I mean, honestly. So these things that are, like, my wife works at the school, and she gets sick from the kids all the time. People send their kids to school sick because they don't want to deal with them, or they can't take the time off of work, or whatever.
Or they don't know.
Or they don't care.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever it is, they send sick kids to school, and then the staff ends up sick. So, like, these things that, like, people always talk about. It's science, right?
Mm-hmm.
These things that are very commonly germ spreaders they're not going to stop being germ spreaders.
Right.
I mean, unless you have really good in place things to prevent that stuff, and even that's kind of questionable in my mind.
Right.
I don't know.
It gets
Anytime you have a lot of people congregating and just one
Right.
person who doesn't even know they have
and it's
something.
not even necessarily because you see a lot of the, oh well, the kids aren't getting hit as hard as the the at-risk community people,
Yeah.
where the age demographics. It's like, well, I get that.
Yeah.
I totally understand that, but kids don't go home to a house where only kids of a certain age are in it. Kids
Yeah.
go home to maybe they have foster parents
Or they live with their grandparents.
or they live with the grandparents,
Yeah.
and those people are at risk.
Yeah.
Kids aren't being raised by kids by and large, right?
I mean, that
So
would be
you
weird.
have transmissionable variables that the kids might not get sick. The kids might have such a robust immune system that but they could be carriers.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that becomes the problem. And
They're
it's
not
the
only
people
are
that
they carry, anybody could be a carrier, and the thing about this thing is like they don't have a symptom. They just carry it and spread it.
right. It has
So-
such a, I would say, like a nerd thing with like a time to live, where it's long enough to where
Yeah.
you could not have it, but if you touched the door handle right after someone that did, and then you went and shook hands with your grandpa or, your dad who is at risk, and there you go, game over.
Yeah.
Did you know you did that? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Well,
the argument is it's a flu-like thing, and everybody gets the flu, and people die from the flu all the time. So why do we give a shit about coronavirus?
Right. And so here we go. Are you ready? So we talked about this, the shopping cart theory.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So I pulled this up because I had seen this trending, and I think it was #HiDragon that put it in the Hangout with us.
Was it Dragon or Mike?
Dragon or Mike?
I think it was Mike.
Are they one and the same?
They are. Yeah, they're a blend.
#Zombie Dragon?
Sometimes I don't even... Maybe they're posting under each other's name.
Right.
I don't know.
He could have given her his phone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's happened before.
Right.
Anyway. And it was... So this tweet, which came from a Reddit thread, the tweet alone has 681,000 likes.
Wow.
Retweeted 182,000 times, and 5,000 comments.
So, like, triple the amount of retweets than likes?
Yeah. But that's good if it's
Wow.
getting likes. The ratio is kind of off, but it's still
that's
pretty
interesting.
good.
Yeah.
So the shopping cart theory. I don't remember how much you participated in this conversation in the Hangout.
I was in that conversation.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
here you
just said
go.
I always leave my cart as far away as possible.
So the owner of the tweet, I'll link it when we get to at least as far as the YouTube episode.
Okay.
It came from Jared, and the tweet came from Antichrist Jared. But the Reddit thread was by someone who was anonymous, and here it is. The shopping cart is the ultimate litmus test for whether a person is capable of self-governing. To return the shopping cart is an easy, convenient task and one which we all recognize as the correct, appropriate thing to do. To return the shopping cart is objectively right. There are no situations other than dire emergencies in which a person is not able to return their cart. Simultaneously, it is not illegal to abandon your shopping cart. Therefore, the shopping cart presents itself at the apex example of whether a person will do what is right without being forced to do it. No one will punish you for not returning your shopping cart. No one will fine you or kill you for not returning your shopping cart. You must return the shopping cart out of the goodness of your own heart. You must return the shopping cart because it is the right thing to do, because it is correct. A person who is unable to do this is no better than an animal, an absolute savage who can only be made to do what is right by threatening them with a law and the force that stands behind it. The shopping cart is what determines whether a person is a good or bad member of society. Now, full disclosure, I always return the shopping cart.
Yeah.
And we said this in the Hangout. I said, and Venus and I have a system. When we generally 99.999% of the time we take the Explorer. When we go to we go to Rayleigh's, usually I hand her the last bag. She loads it into the back. She's shutting the rear door, and I make the journey to returning the cart while she starts the car.
Now, is cart return, is that only mitigated to you taking it back to the store? Or is the cart
I take
thing
it back to the closest
cart return
place.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, not all the time, but sometimes I will pick up any cart that I see that is tossed onto a fucking parking island or a little block, like along the way. Do I do it all the time? No. But if it's on the way, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Always return the cart. And I think this being abstract, outside of the thing, I think that has to do a lot with having done service industry stuff, being a busboy, dishwashing, and a prep cook in the restaurant business.
Yep.
I have been the low rung on the totem pole.
Oh, yeah.
So I know exactly what it's like to have everyone kick their shit out into Jeeves is going to handle it. And I'll just set my plate aside, and some monkey is going to come and pick it up.
Just let the dishwasher do it.
Yeah. Who's going to sweep the floor? Well, let the dishwasher do it. This is the worst pan in the history of mankind. And, let the dishwasher take over.
Right.
It's, I've been that guy.
Yeah.
And then what that teaches me is that while I have never worked in the shopping or grocery industry, something tells me inherently that the person getting sent to pick up corral all the carts is the low man on the totem pole.
Right.
The guy still working on work probation or temp to hire or something like that.
Or just the new bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, or the new guy.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So it is the least I can do, having been in that place before, to make his or her job that much easier.
Yeah.
To wear a fucking mask
Yeah.
is the least I can do to someone that may not know me and doesn't need to know me. It hurts nothing. You cough into your hands or you cough into your elbow out of courtesy.
Mm-hmm.
It is the courtesy that says, well, the least I can do is wear a mask.
Well,
am I sick? Is she sick? I don't know, but it doesn't hurt me to wear a mask.
No, and the thing about the mask thing is wearing a mask, it's not just you protecting other people, it's you protecting yourself from other people. Right?
To some degree.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
you don't
not,
know
it's
where
not foolproof,
or what.
but
Yeah.
it's if everyone, it's like 70%, 70 to 75%. If you were a passive or asymptomatic carrier, which you wouldn't know because you're asymptomatic, if you were at least wearing a mask, you're eliminating 70 to 75% of the potential
Right.
are not stuff where you're carrying it out and giving it to someone else.
Yeah.
Now, if you were fucking sick as a dog,
Well, one of those 5-day incubation periods where you don't even know you have it, and you're walking around.
right?
I mean, you don't know if you're going to have it or not.
And there people splitting hairs about, well, that cotton mask isn't an N95 mask, so it's not going to stop anything. Absolutely, you are 100% correct.
Yeah.
Sneezing into your fucking elbow, if you have the flu, probably is doing less than wearing a mask. It's still a courtesy.
Yeah.
When you meet someone new and you shake their hand, it's a form of courtesy.
Right.
If we're going out on an essential task during a pandemic where something is ravaging 90,000 people as far as deaths are concerned, with no vaccine, I see it as nothing more than a common courtesy to at least put out a limited amount of effort in wearing a mask.
Yeah. Return the cart.
Return the fucking card.
Yeah.
Do the card.
Yeah.
It's like 25 yards in most cases or less.
Yeah.
And if it's more, honestly, most Americans at this point could probably use a fucking exercise. Right?
No, I hear you. I mean, it's funny because sort of off topic to a certain extent, but I managed a restaurant for a couple years. And there were times where I would tell my crew, hey, you guys, I don't need to be in the kitchen. You guys know what the fuck you're doing. So tonight, I'm going to do dishes. I'm the manager.
Yeah.
But I'll be in the dish room all night doing dishes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. Returning the cart doesn't bother me.
Yeah. It's
wearing a mask to protect the person who I live with and has mothered up my children, who is highly asthmatic. Wearing a mask to do that for her is like a no-brainer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
the amount of stuff that I've seen too where it's somehow emasculating to wear a mask. I'm like, that doesn't even compute to me.
No.
I'm like, I'm doing the what?
That's like the guy that won't wash his butt because he's afraid to be gay.
Yeah.
right?
Wash it. It's okay.
It's your own ass, and it's dirty.
Yeah.
Wash that shit.
Wash your ass.
Yeah, for real.
Hashtag wash your ass.
You wash your ass. You return the cart.
Because, yeah.
You wear a mask.
You wear a mask.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
It's not like it's a permanent thing either. That's what's crazy.
Right. At some point, there will be a return to norm.
Yeah.
Right? And if you look at any of the, Pan-Asian countries, mostly the Asian continent countries, they're wearing a mask. A lot of times it's been for the pollution.
Yeah.
But it's customary to wear a mask. So it's not like a human inconvenience. It's like you can breathe with a mask. It'll be okay.
In Japan, so I've been there a few times. You see people, and this is years ago. It's not like this is a new thing.
Yeah, it's not new.
This is probably 15 or 18 years ago, the last time I was in Japan. You see people wearing masks all the time, and those are the people who are sick. They're wearing a mask to protect you from getting sick.
Yeah.
They aren't feeling good. They know it, but they still have to go out. They wear a mask because they know.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
And I would think, given so many unknowns and so many, we've touched on this in a couple episodes back. It's like there's miscommunications or communications that are at conflict with each other.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a place where you don't necessarily know what to trust, the lowest common denominator would be, how do I protect myself not knowing what the real deal is, as well as everyone in my household or everyone that I care about?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is just wear the mask.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot trust mainstream media, and you cannot trust politicians of either persuasion.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be. And what you're left with is a potentiality that, well, I don't know where it is or how long it can live in the air or anything like that, or if I'm sick. So until I know something specifically relative to me, the least amount of mitigations that I can do is at least wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, some people are doing the glasses and wearing the gloves too. You can go that far if you want.
How about just science, right? Science
It's just
doesn't have an
science.
agenda. It just It just gives you the fact. I mean,
Science just does.
Not 100% of the time,
right.
but a majority of the time.
Because I heard the Earth was flat.
Oh,
Science.
I think I read that on the internet.
I saw that somewhere.
That's probably. Yeah.
There's a Reddit thread somewhere.
I heard that the Earth is flat and it's being held up by pillars on the bottom somehow.
No, it's
No?
I don't know how it's being
Is it a
held up.
frisbee
It's
just
just
floating?
a disc, dude.
Oh. I don't know. That's what I heard.
Yeah, it's magic.
I also know that the moon landing was fake.
Right.
It was. I mean, how in the world did they ever make to the moon? Like, my phone has more computing power in it than the Apollo 11.
So speaking of the moon, did you see Elon's daughter or son's
Name?
How
do you pronounce it? Is it like dolphin sounds?
12.
Oh, I mean,
It does make you wonder what they're gonna.
my this is my son's name, but we call him Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw. Oh man, what was the name? Okay. It was. That's right. I had to get it right because if I blew it, it was. So the state of Mississippi was doing, like a Zoom graduation, 2020 graduates, and the governor was reading off.
Oh, I heard.
Did you hear about that? And it was
I don't
someone
remember the
had
name.
slipped in Harry as crack. And so the governor read it, Harry as crack, and there's like the way I'm sure that the video was cut off exactly a moment, but there was a. Oh fuck! I read it.
Oh,
God damn it! Like the Moe and the Simpsons things where he reads the Harry Balzac,
right.
but this was Ass Crack. I had a good chuckle.
That's
because I'm
funny.
like, that's a governor of a whole state, and he's reading Harry Ass
So
Crack.
was this a college? It had to have been, right?
I don't know.
I mean,
I think
if he's
he
a
was. I think
governor-
it was high school. I think he was reading off a huge list of high schoolers.
Oh,
Like someone got in a good one.
that's funny. No, I read about it, or I didn't read about it. I just saw the headline, and I thought that was funny.
I went out and I read it to the kids, and I'm like, I wrote down on a Post-it. I wrote down Harry and Ass Crack, and I went out to Xander and I went, "Hey, is this kid in your school?" And he went, "Harry Ass Crack." And it took him a second, and then the light went on, and he went, "Harry Ass." No, Dad. And I went, "Oh, okay, all right."
I just thought you might.
So
know
then
him.
Piper's coming down the hall or something, and I went, "Hey, Piper, is this kid a sophomore in your school?" And she went, "Harry, no, no."
So you couldn't get him.
I couldn't get him, but Piper had like a twinkle, and apparently there's also something going around on TikTok or whatever of like reading funny names.
Oh, okay.
And there was a whole slew of like Anna Abortion.
Well, we
I'm
did.
like, whoa!
I did have a Mike Hunt in my
Oh,
high school
yeah?
class. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mike Cocksmall. But that was in that was in what was that movie? The Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham, the Fast and Furious one with the
Oh, I haven't seen that. That's a newer one, right?
yeah.
I haven't seen.
I don't think it was Fast and Furious. Oh, Hobbs and Shaw. That's what it was.
I don't think I saw. That.
Jason Statham's character has to get him temporary IDs, and he gives one to The Rock, and The Rock goes up to the immigration line or whatever, and
Doesn't bother to look at it.
yeah, he's not looking at it, and the proctor pretty much goes, "Mike Oxmall," and he went, I mean, not really. It was a funny thing. Anyway.
Well, it would suck to have your name be that.
Yeah.
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 I don't know.
Right.
Did you have a good weekend?
I had at least
I mean,
5 Post-it notes of like, this is what I need to get done this weekend.
but you were working, right?
Yes. And that was
Saturday?
in between. I had Saturday and Sunday stuff.
Oh, that's balls on you.
It is, but a lot of times I think
I don't know how you
not
can
not
do
the
that.
Saturday work, but the Sunday work. At least this weekend was like a 9 o'clock thing.
Mhm.
So it forces me to like, okay, you can't sleep in. There's no sleeping in here. Just get up and you've got work to do.
Yeah.
It was a quick thing, luckily. Knock
Yeah.
on wood. So it keeps me like, well, now I'm done, and I'm up.
I got a bunch
so
of shit to
so I've got 5 Post-its of shit to do.
Mhm.
So I started knocking stuff out.
Yeah. It's related to
Ideally-
painting related items.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got I painted half the kitchen, and we have the huge like peaked ceiling. So I got
Yeah.
half the kitchen done. A new light socket put in that has like a night light. It like senses
Yeah.
night lights.
LED built into
Yeah.
it.
2 new we replaced the pendants that were over like our bar area with
That's
those
right.
really slick.
LEDs.
The LED, like antique looking clear
Yeah.
LED with like a huge filament. I mean, the bulbs are
Yeah.
like a loaf of bread. They're huge.
Yeah.
Painted half the ceiling. So now I've got half the thing left and then 1 accent wall. So it's probably another day and a half of painting stuff.
Yeah.
And then, when I get the painting done, then I can wax the floors and there's a lot of. It feels good though because
Yeah.
we finished up the living room
Yeah.
for the like 90. I'm going to say 90%. The TV got moved. The cables are all of the right length. Everything is nice and organized and neat and happy. The cables for pre-running speakers, at which time I have no timeline for, but
Those are there.
should economics
Yeah.
allow for it, I can buy speakers and the wires will be there, and I don't have to move things in the living room. The new couches that were in here as our temporary Sad Dads Club podcast studio have been moved into the
Little sad
living
about that.
room. The floor, I know, they were pretty comfy. And this thing's going into the trash that I'm sitting on soon because it's like leftover.
Oh, piece they didn't want.
Yeah. So the floors got waxed. The couches got moved in. Most of the stuff is back hanging. There's a set of blinds. Like I said, 90% done.
Yeah.
So I probably got 60, 70% of my post-its done, but I knew that I wasn't going to get everything knocked off. I felt pretty productive. And then we got rain Sunday, like the heavy, like I was describing someone on the East, one of my teammates on the East Coast. I'm like, it was like North Carolina rain. It was like, it dumped. I'm going to sneeze.
Down. It came down hard. Yeah.
But not as hard as I think it did Monday in the late evening or early evening.
I think
we
overnight.
had downpours of crazy size.
It was like Saturday night. It started at around midnight or 1, and it was just sort of a steady kind of thing.
Yeah.
More of a steady rain that was off and on here and there.
Yeah.
But, we ran into a similar thing because I dug a trench in the back, right, and had to dredge into the sidewalk.
That's right.
And then I was bummed because
Do you have a pry bar? Hold on. Do you have a pry bar? Do you know what I was talking about as far as like a pole, like the iron steel pole?
Yeah, I know what a pry bar is.
Do you have one?
I think I might somewhere. Why, you're talking about for going under the sidewalk?
I'm just talking about for digging in this shithole of a
I have a
dirt.
pickaxe.
Oh, okay.
That's got a wide flat end on one and a pick on the other.
Okay.
I used that for quite a bit of it.
There you go.
That worked really well.
Okay.
But the hard part was dredging a hole under the sidewalk to get the plumbing through there.
So how'd you pull it off?
With we used a pressure washer, and it has has like a little like a
oscillator,
a tip that oscillates on it that kind of does this. And man, that thing worked really well for getting it. Got just over halfway through on one side, and then just over halfway through, and then you can see water coming through from one side to the other. But trying to get the holes to line up was kind of so we had to kind of clean around, until we could get a pipe all the way through. And then once we got PVC all the way through, it was like, okay, now we can get our gas line to run through there.
Right.
And it didn't take that long, to be honest with you. Get the holes on both sides, and then kind of try and get them to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
It was.
Is your
pretty
pressure
easy.
washer like mine an electric, or do you have a motor?
No, it's actually Chandler's pressure washer, and it's an electric one. I had one, but
he still lives at the house, right?
Yeah.
So it's your pressure washer
for now.
All right.
I mean, I'm kind of glad it wasn't my pressure washer because it got used in the mud.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That thing was dirty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. We're talking about the pressure washer?
No.
All right.
No, we're talking about something else.
Hey.
No, but yeah, the thing was I dug the trench on Saturday and then ran into a snag with the hardware and had to return stuff.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I figured out that because it was doing it almost when it was dark out. By the time I figured out I had the wrong hardware, everything was closed already because everything closes like
early
now.
Right.
So I had to wait until Sunday. Well, of course, it rained overnight and into Sunday, and then at some point in the late morning, the sun kind of came out, and I went out back, and of course, my trench is full of water, and I got to pull the pipe that was running under the sidewalk that I had run that needed to go back. I had to pull that out and put a pipe in there so it didn't lose the hole somehow.
Right.
And clean it all up so I could return it to the Home Depot. And but it was just a big mess. I had to clean the trench out.
You took a roll of tube back to Home Depot that was muddy. And
no, I cleaned it up.
Oh, I was going to say. I mean, it would have been funny if you would have just been like,
oh, here's a dirty fucking roll of...
Here's my dirty tube pipe. and it didn't work.
Well, what's funny about it was, and I wasn't even sure they were going to
They're
let
like,
me.
sir, put your pants back on.
I wasn't
like,
even
oh.
sure they were going to let me return it because it had like factory thing. You know, it was rolled up in factory things like holding the piping together.
Right.
But it still had all the tags and shit were all on it, and then I just took wire ties and then snipped them off.
Yeah.
Put like 3 wire ties on it to hold it together, and I took it back, and she kind of looked at it, like looked at the ends of it, and I'm like, what's the problem? You know, kind of thing.
Right.
And she said something, and I said, it just wasn't the right product. I thought I was buying a different product. She goes, okay, and then returns it.
Yeah.
Turns out that was a 25-foot roll of whatever it's called. It's called Home Flex, and it's a corrugated metal pipe in the middle. That was a 25-foot roll, was like $46. I took that back, got my money back, went back, realized, oh, here's the stuff I actually need.
Right.
It was a 100-foot roll, which they don't make any smaller, and it was only $36.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, what am I going to do with 75? Because I only needed 25 feet. What am I going to do with 75 feet of this shit? So I think my friend Steve's going to take it off my hands. But anyway, got that all done, and it was muddy as shit in the backyard. And so now that
the reason
done,
you were having the pipe and digging the trench was because you were remoting your propane tank.
Yes,
for a
fire pit. Yeah.
Fire pit. Yeah,
and so now that we have the stub in the ground for the fire pit, we're gonna do like paver. We're gonna paver that into a patio. So now we got to figure out what pavers we want to get and kind of figure that out and like get all the area leveled out so that we can put sand down and put them in place.
I like it's because we made our benches that are in our backyard out of the rumble stone. It's like essentially concrete. Some of it has dyes in it, but it's like they're bricks of various sizings, but they're kind of rustic on the edges, so they're a little bit rounded.
Yeah, that's what they have, a brick like that. There, Lowe's had it.
I don't know if both of them have it, but I really like it because it's not a brick, and it's not a paver. It looks a little bit used. It doesn't look quite new. We've done both, and they seem to be able to work in a lot of different designs because they come in different sizes. Like you could do a tons of. They're very versatile.
We actually went and looked at a bunch at both Home Depot and Lowe's.
Yeah.
And saw a couple things we liked. Saw some things we really didn't like. But just figuring out what we want to do, or making that decision is going to be semi-painful, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because we don't make decisions very well,
Right.
So.
But you know where they are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they had some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Lowe's had a bunch of stuff.
So it's not like you're gonna. The moment when you decide a product, where they are and how them. You won't be limited by like, well, I can't get these, but now we're ready to do this thing.
They sort of they had a crap ton, like a pallets of paver stones or whatever, and so Home Depot was kind of picked over, and then they had a couple pallets set aside that people had ordered. That was sort of like, oh, we were kind of looking at that, and now it's all gone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Lowe's had a bunch. Lowe's had a bunch of stuff. So we got to figure that out, and then we'll paver the patio, and then put the fire pit
patio?
on top of it. Yeah,
or like all that old grass. So you're gonna put pavers on top of the concrete patio?
No. We're gonna extend the patio that's covered with the pavers, and surround the fire pit with pavers. That whole area.
And you already bought your fire pit, or
I have all the hardware for it. I don't have the rock part of the fire pit, all the stones for pulling it up. But I have like the pan, the burner ring. I have.
Was this that kit? I think I've seen it.
Yeah, in my garage.
In front of what? No, but in front of one of the stores, they have like galvanized.
It is. It's like a real shiny fire ring.
Right.
It's probably this big. It's like an 18-inch, I want to say. It's got like 2 rings of fire nozzles in it.
Right.
And then I think I got it at Barbecue Guys on sale. The ring, and then also there's a kit that comes with some piping and a key thing, which I'm not sure if I'm going to use or not because I don't think I need it necessarily. But it came with a bunch of tubing, and then all that will connect up to the stub that we just put in the ground.
Right.
And then the pan, I actually bought a sheet of metal that I cut in a circle, and then I got to cut a hole in the center to put the stub of the ring in.
Right.
And then I need to cut some holes for drainage, and then that will get trimmed for the rock when the rock gets built up for the ring. That'll get trimmed out, and then we'll put caps on top of it. So then there's going to be enough room to put like fiberglass in it.
I was going to say, are you going to cover it with the rocks or glass?
We'll do like I don't know. We might even do a combo, but we're looking at like a multicolored kind of fiberglass thing that's like
you know who
black,
I
white,
didn't
and
realize it was kind of happened. I think after we stopped Ingress, like right there at Vernon Square, they've got like fire trenches that have the glass.
Oh, really? So I could steal it?
Well, maybe. Where did we see that? It was at one of the turkey trots. They had like the
fiberglass, like at the
they've got like the burners with and it's got the glass in it for heat. And I went, fucking, how long have they been here? Like I've been down here making fucking P8s.
For a couple years.
For years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that this shit was actually in
here. Were they
here.
in the little square area or
They were just a little bit closer to the side to the municipal building. So what would be closer to the Italian restaurant side. That side.
Yeah.
Not the parking garage side.
Oh, okay.
And I went,
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it was I like the fiberglass.
Yeah,
you know.
It'll have a cool look, and hopefully it'll all work. And I mean, we have all the plumbing ready to go, pressure tested, and blah blah blah. But that was one of those things where it was like, for a long time, I've thought about this project.
Yeah.
And then the whole part about digging a trench and like knowing that I had to take the LP tank and I wanted it not next to the fire pit. I wanted it to be away, and like, well, how do I do that? And then I found the right products, and it was sort of like, do I want to do that? You know, it's like him and hawed. And finally, I'm just like, screw it, let's do it. And then it was sort of became, well, where do we want to put the tank? I mean, I could put it right there, like, you know, just not that far away, or I could put it over. If we put it over here, it'll be way hidden. You just come over and turn.
Right.
And it's like, oh, perfect, let's do that. Well, you know, in order to do that, guess what?
Yeah.
You got to dig a trench from here to there, and you got to dredge a hole under the sidewalk, and it's sort of like, okay, well, I mean, I committed to it now.
Yeah.
I told my wife that's what I was doing.
Right.
So here we go.
Time to pick up the shovel.
Yeah, shovel and a pickaxe, and broke a sprinkler in the process.
It's funny you're talking about like not knowing, but a lot of times it's like the commitment of the decision. So I ran into something that I thought I had known, and it was the same kind of thing with the barbecue. It was, you know, for the longest time, the one barbecue that's straight out the patio, I've been fighting what I thought was like a draft issue because it faces the wind that comes into the backyard.
I remember you talking about
a lot of times I fight like it getting hot. Like sometimes it was like I can't get this thing up above 200.
Oh, wow.
It's like so bizarre.
That's
and
low.
I think, and I used to put it right. I made a baffle on the back of the barbecue.
Sure.
Because it's like one of those things that you, the higher end things that you can get at any of the box stores as far as a barbecue goes. It's got like a semi-granite top with like a 5-burner thing. But because it was facing like the wind, on windy days and doing barbecue, I always felt like I was fighting like the wind coming up and into and blowing on the burners and keeping it from getting hot.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks back, I'm fighting this problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, is it maybe that I don't have enough gas? Like, am I running low on gas? It's not really that windy. Like, I don't understand. So I have a mobile, the little guy here is the mobile air compressor.
Right.
And I also, Usually, I had just gone through last year where I cleaned all of the burners. I took them all out of both barbecues. I have 2. And like wire cleaned all of the orifices on the burners and then blew them out and went, and I spent a good portion of last year with like, this is how the barbecues are supposed to run, and that happens. You get creosote, you get carbon deposits, all these things. It happens. And if you don't do that, you're going to run into problems with your burners as far as heat and efficiency.
Yeah.
But I had just done that last year for both barbecues to then be facing a heat problem on this barbecue.
I'm
fuck.
like,
the goddamn wind. It's the goddamn wind.
Right.
And it didn't.
Which, in my opinion, would take a lot of wind.
It would. You are not incorrect.
Especially because the burners are sunk down inside the body.
Right.
And it would take a lot of wind to really affect those.
I agree.
Okay.
But it was the only thing that I had to go on as to why this thing was happening to me.
Sure.
And sporadically, but not all the things. So I removed like the ceramic. I had the ceramic rocks that are like your heat shielding and heat deflectors to help. Yeah. Those things had rotted away in my barbecue a long time ago. So I had bought lava rock as a replacement. And I think I've even mentioned it on the show ways back. Had no problem with that. But in the process of like, do I have to clean these burners out again and blow them out because they're that old and cheap and, So I removed all the lava rocks. I'm looking down and I'm like, it doesn't look like the wind is blowing on these, but it's not getting hot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
So you think maybe it's a gas flow issue?
It is.
Oh, okay.
It is. So
right.
Here's the thing. So I'm like, I came in the house and I'm like, I wrote on a Post-it note. I'm like, Google barbecue not getting hot anymore. Like a couple of years old, barbecue not getting hot. Stick it, Post-it note, put it on my monitor, walk away. Came back later that week. I think it was a Sunday, because I said this is a couple weeks back. Looking at my Post-it note, I start Googling. Well, maybe you're something about your regulator. Okay, well, all right, something the regulator. Well, is your hose kinked or anything like that? No, I've looked under there. There's no kinking. My burners aren't rotted through yet, so that's not an issue. I just cleaned them, so I know that's not an issue. And then there was somewhere in the late 2000s-ish, if the regulators the standard was put in place where it does a pressure regularization between the burner knob and the tank itself. So it does an equalization, but if your burner is turned on, when you turn your tank on, the regulator can't get that pressurization, and so then it closes a valve that will only allow you to get about 200 degrees of heat.
Oh, interesting.
So, and then I realized what happens. So coming from the country and knowing barbecues of old age with regulators that probably didn't have this fancy safety issue.
It's a feature.
Yeah. When I'm usually done with the barbecue, I reach down and I turn the tank off, which usually means I leave the burners at medium or wherever they're at as far as temperature, because turning the tank off means if I turn my burners off, I have like an old wives' tale kind of thing that says, it's possible that you may leak gas, especially if you leave your tank on.
Oh, well, that's
so I don't
interesting because I turn my burners off and then turn off the gas.
Right. So I will 100% turn my tank off, which means I usually leave my burners in an on state.
Okay.
Normally.
Yeah.
I turn the tank off. I know it's off. The tank is fucking off. There's no gas coming out of here. And I walk back in with a tray of
that's
barbecue.
Just it for me. I personally turn the tank off because I feel like I wouldn't trust the barbecue to hold it back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, So
even
normally,
though I know the burners are off,
right,
I would just be afraid that it's coming out somewhere, and then I'm just losing the
right.
tank.
So that's why I would normally skip the burners and I just go to the tank.
Okay.
Now, if I have tons of time, I would. But because I'm not religious about any particular form of shutting it off outside of I grab the tank valve. I was running into these random scenarios where I would go outside and the burners would be on at medium or low, and I would turn the tank on, and then I would go to light my burners, and it would light.
So probably what was happening,
And it would, and the regulator would say, "Your burners are on. I can't get equalization."
Well, I
and
would
it,
imagine,
and it shuts the orifice.
I would imagine if your burner was on low or something, it's probably not enough to prevent that thing from working.
If they are on
And so
in
then
any form or fashion,
really?
the regulator
So if there's
says
any flow at all?
if it can't equalize,
Oh,
it says you get safety precaution, which will only get you enough gas to get to X.
I gotcha.
And I'll be damned if I went, well,
I wonder if
that's kind of me.
That's funny because
That's me.
I wonder if Chandler ran into that because he was complaining he couldn't get my barbecue hot one day. I'm like, what the fuck? That thing's running at 600 degrees half the time.
Yeah.
At like medium low. I don't know why. Why would you be complaining that it doesn't get hot? It's always hotter than a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And so maybe he'd had a similar thing
It
where he
could be.
turned it on and then turned on the tank.
And so it was
Interesting.
This is part of like me growing up in a place where the regulator didn't do this fancy shit.
Right.
But I took that the next day. I went, "Fucking, are you shitting me?" So I turned off all of the burners,
turned on the gas.
turned on the gas at the tank, and then lit it, and then shut the lid and put it on high.
Yeah.
And yeah, it blew past 200.
Yeah.
Like it was nobody's business. I went, this is my fault. I've been fucking this one up.
Well, wait. Did you test it though? You should have gone.
Oh,
back.
I didn't test it. I didn't test it, but I
'cause
knew.
personally, I would have tried it with my normal way of doing it, and then close the lid and see what the temperature gets to, and then been all okay. This is what I'm seeing, and then
I suppose I could
turned it all off.
hand just get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Just to
then
see.
too, what it led me to was, I didn't have an adjustable regulator, so I bought a.
What's an adjustable regulator?
So it allows you to mix more, or it allows you to adjust the pressure coming out of the tank instead of using the burners. So you can allow more gas and oxygen through the regulator.
I thought we thought that the job of adding the oxygen to the gas was the barbecue part of the burner process.
Yeah, the regulator can
It can also
add
do
to
that
it.
too.
It can turn it into a fucking jet engine. It is amazing. Anyway, so I bought a regulator that not only has like a PSI gauge on it, which allows you to adjust tank out the hose, but the hose itself is steel braided. So if you're someone that's in the car industry and played with or done anything as far as aftermarket with your brakes,
Played with your balls.
yeah, played
That's
with
what I was
your
thinking.
balls on you.
Yeah.
Having stainless steel brake lines prevents contraction and expansion, especially when it's under pressure. So not only is the hose braided now to make sure that it can handle extra pressure coming from a regulator that I can adjust.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit more confidence that I'm not kinking the hose.
Yeah.
And the pressure regulator also allows me to know, am I out of gas? Like without having to necessarily lift the tank. If I can't maintain a standard pressure coming out of the tank.
Yeah.
So this is almost an entire episode about barbecue lore.
no.
But I'm telling you, I have fought this problem, and I am a barbecue passion freak,
Okay.
and I can't believe I was making this mistake.
I think that explains something, actually. When I was first testing our fire pit hardware, I was getting very low flow to the burner, to the fire pit burner. And I think because I had the key on, and then I turned the tank on, so it didn't regulate.
Yes, I would turn your key off. Yes.
So I do need the key.
I would key off, open tank,
So
let it equalize. Give
Yeah.
it 5 to 10 seconds to equalize.
Yeah.
Then turn key on, then light your burner.
Yeah.
That is
Now, is this all of those that do this now? It's like
I think if you bought a
I mean, if
whatever
I go,
was packaged with your barbecue or the burner itself.
well, I mean, if
I
you
mean,
go buy
within the last
new,
5 years,
if you
yes.
go buy a new regulator and hose, is it going to have that
Yes.
built into it too?
Yes.
So I do need the key.
Yes. And I like the regular. I bought one a ways back, but it didn't have steel braided for the really super duper barbecue out here in the back. The regulator does allow you some affinity in tuning the heat outside the burners. And it's a little added as far as whatever comes out of the orifice in a non-adjustable regulator.
Well, that's fascinating because I just learned that I almost hosed myself by not using the key, because I just got done saying to you that I have the key part and I probably don't need it.
Yeah.
But if this works the way you say it works, then the flow coming out of the tank without the key, if I don't have the key there, then the flow coming out of the tank will be minimized. And I don't want that. I need the flow out of the tank to be high.
Yeah.
So that
key
is
off.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. And like I said, this is like a humble thing for me because I consider myself someone that I've used barbecues.
I didn't know this.
And barbecue for decades.
Yeah.
Decades. But this one issue has always plagued me as it's a natural occurrence due to the location of my barbecue and the wind coming through my backyard.
Well, I mean, to be fair, your barbecue is out in the middle.
It is.
It's not. There's no break behind it.
But it was so
it would
sporadic
make sense.
that I'm like, I can't.
But it's not even windy.
Right. But there was always wind when it would happen, like to
a breeze.
Enough. It was enough for me to be like, oh, well, yeah, it's a little windy today. So, boy, it must be really fighting it.
That's interesting.
And fucking sure as shit, it's because I was adhering to, the patterns of young guy. It was like, yeah, you shut it off the tank, and when you start the thing off, the burners are already on, and as long as you light it quick, you're not leaking gas. So just light it quick.
Yeah.
The new regulators
don't allow it.
Don't allow it. The safety precautions are in place because as far as the regulators are concerned, it's a leak.
Yeah, it's an unmitigated flow.
Right.
Yeah.
So it says, here, I'm shutting it down.
Yeah.
And my dad said, too, got it. Oh, no,
nope.
I didn't. My dad said, too, that there's that if you turn your tank upside down, there's a precaution in the tank as well. Like if you end up upside downing it, there's like a settling thing that it'll.
Is that what I hear inside the tank that's like tacking on the side?
Might be.
When it's full and you move the tank, you can hear something going like it's settling. And I wonder if that's part of the tip over thing.
Could be.
You can hear it in the tank. My wife
I haven't actually looked that one up either, but now with the regulator thing, it wouldn't surprise me that there's some sort of, ball valve that recognizes if it's upside down or not, and then whether or not how long it has to settle before it allows.
When we had that problem with the fire pit burner, I'm going to have to go back and try this now. But when we had this issue with the fire pit burner, I thought, this fucking shit better work. Put in.
Yeah.
But the other thing I thought was Chandler he had a tank that was a Marigas tank, like one of those swapping tanks thing.
Yeah.
And I take my tanks to the place on Washington, that little Valero or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And they just fill
I
them.
like to fill it.
Yeah.
I prefer fills over swaps.
Well, and the thing of it was, I thought, well, maybe when Amerigas or whoever that is fills their tanks, they don't have as much pressure in the tank. So the flow coming out of the tank is less than maybe the tank that I was going to be using.
Okay.
Or maybe because he was using his tank on my grill at the time, that was part of the reason why it didn't get hot.
Yeah.
But I realize now he's probably turning the burner on first.
Right.
When
he
he was
letting it and then...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to turn the gas on.
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah.
Nope. Don't do it.
Okay. Well,
offs across the board. Tank.
Learn something new every day.
And give it 5 seconds before you start.
So
5 to 10 before you touch the burners.
Yeah.
To let it doop, 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 doop.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
All right. Well, now I know I have to put the key in place.
We're close enough at time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a lot of barbecue talk.
It was a lot of barbecue. But there's your tip, because you're probably all at home anyway, and you're not going out to eat, and you could do some barbecue stuff. And if you're having problems fighting the temperatures of your barbecue, now you know.
Turn on the gas, then turn on your burner. That's the pro tip of the day.
Pro tips.
if you're using a gas barbecue. All right. Well, fair enough. We can call this one good.
Call it good.
I mean, it kind of makes me sad every time we get here, but whatever.
I hate the end, but I'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
I'll see you next week.
I don't know that you could get rid of me at this point.
No.
I just show up and
I start digging trenches for you.
I got some trenches.
How's your blister?
It looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're healing.
Well, I've just peeled off some more skin today.
That's
so.
from digging, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not
Oh, no. I don't get blisters from
no
that.
self-love?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much lube.
Yeah. And spraying.
Yeah, I mean.
And flaying.
Yeah.
Jesus. Catch this. I'll dig a trench for you.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway.
Yeah. All right.
We'll catch you next week.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.